Neoterra was not like the Earth Eli had read about in history books. Towering skyscrapers of shining metal and glass stretched into clouds that glowed with neon colors. Vehicles moved through the air in lines as if guided by invisible rules. Alien species walked the streets, each with shapes and features that humans could barely imagine. Some had 3 eyes, some had wings, and some moved like water. Among them, humans were rare, their presence often unnoticed. Eli tightened his jacket as he stepped off the hovering transport pod. He had always been small for his age, with a lean build and bright, alert eyes. But what he lacked in size, he made up for in attention to detail and sharp instincts. That was why he was chosen for this mission, to investigate disturbances in the city's central arena, where alien warriors displayed strength, skill, and sometimes cruelty. The arena was a vast, circular structure of transparent materials and glowing energy fields. Holographic banners spun around it, showing fighters from different planets and star systems. Eli's mission was simple: observe, gather intelligence, and avoid unnecessary conflict. Yet as he entered, he felt a shiver of excitement. This was a place where rules existed, but survival depended on understanding them, and sometimes breaking them. "Human," a voice called. Eli turned sharply. The speaker was a female alien, her skin like polished silver and her eyes reflecting bright violet light. Her form was graceful yet deadly, and her movement was too fast for the eye to track. A crowd of aliens had gathered, whispering, some in awe, some in challenge. "I am Kayla," she said, bowing slightly. "You wander into my domain. Do you fight or do you leave quietly?" Eli studied her carefully. Every movement, every blink, every shift of her weight spoke of confidence and skill. "I'm just here to observe," he said, keeping his voice calm. "But if a fight comes, I will respond." Kayla's lips curved into a faint smile. "Interesting. Most humans I meet run at the first sign of danger, but you do not." Before Eli could respond, she moved, so fast that the air seemed to part around her. In one smooth motion, she struck, sending him flying across the arena floor. The impact was enough to knock the wind out of him, and he landed hard. For a moment, the world spun, the neon lights blurring into streaks. The aliens around them gasped in surprise. And then, Eli smiled. Kayla paused, confusion flashing across her face. "What, are you smiling?" she asked, stepping back, her arms ready for another strike. Eli sat up slowly, brushing dust from his jacket. "Because getting knocked down isn't the end," he said, his voice calm despite the pain. "It's just the start of understanding," the alien crowd murmured. Some laughed, thinking it arrogance. Others looked uncertain, as if unsure how a human could react this way. Kayla tilted her head. "Understanding?" she repeated, clearly curious. "Most creatures would be angry, scared, or begging for mercy. Not you." Eli stood fully, stretching his arms. "I don't fear challenges," he said simply. "And I don't let failure define me. Every fall is a chance to learn. Every strike a lesson." For a moment, Kayla studied him in silence. Then she laughed, a sound clear and melodic carrying across the arena. "Perhaps humans are more stubborn than I thought." "Stubborn or clever," Eli replied. "There is a difference." Kayla's violet eyes narrowed. She stepped forward, her movements a blur. This time she tested him with a series of strikes, quick enough to make any alien warrior proud. Each time Eli blocked poorly, sidestepped at the last moment, or fell to the ground, but always he rose. And always a smile returned to his face. "You are unusual," Kayla admitted, her voice quieter now, almost thoughtful. "No one has ever risen after every strike and smiled. Humans, they should not survive here." Eli looked at her steadily. "Humans survive because we adapt. We are not the strongest. We are not the fastest. But we learn, we change, and we keep going. That's why we smile." The arena fell silent. Even the strongest alien fighters seemed to pause, watching. Kayla took a slow step back, lowering her arm slightly. "Perhaps I underestimated you," she said. "Most species bow or scream. You respond with calm, with strategy." Eli nodded. "Exactly. Calm and a willingness to keep trying. That is all it takes to survive and sometimes to win." Kayla's tail, long and flexible, flicked behind her as she considered him. "Very well, human. Show me this strategy of yours. Teach me why smiling at defeat matters." Eli chuckled softly. "I think you might learn more by watching than by listening." For the next hour, Kayla tested him in small skirmishes. Each time, Eli fell, but he rose with a slightly adjusted stance, a new angle, a different dodge. Kayla moved faster and stronger, trying to catch him off guard. The crowd watched in awe. What they didn't understand was that Eli's human mind was already analyzing, remembering, and predicting. By the end of the session, Eli was tired, breathing heavily, but his smile had never faded. Kayla, on the other hand, felt an unfamiliar thrill. Humans were not supposed to behave this way. They were fragile yet somehow fearless. Their spirit was unlike anything she had encountered. "Tell me," she asked, wiping sweat from her brow, "why don't you fight to win like the others?" Eli's eyes sparkled with quiet intensity. "Because winning isn't about defeating the other person. It's about learning. Every strike you make, every move you show me, I gain knowledge. And knowledge is more powerful than strength." Kayla stared at him. Her mind, trained to calculate power and speed, now struggled to understand this human logic. "So, your smile is not arrogance?" she asked. "No," Eli replied, shaking his head gently. "It is recognition. Recognition that life is full of challenges, and every challenge can be a teacher. I smile because I know I can rise again, no matter how hard I fall." For the first time, Kayla felt a spark of respect, not for human strength, but for human spirit. "Perhaps humans are more dangerous than I thought," she murmured. "Not because of what you can do, but because of what you refuse to give up on." Eli nodded. "Exactly. You can be fast, strong, even smarter in some ways, but you cannot match a human's persistence and will. That is why we survive where others fail." The arena's lights dimmed slightly, as if reflecting the tension in the air. Kayla stepped closer, her expression half amused, half curious. "Then tell me, Eli, do you truly believe that humans can survive anywhere, even against those stronger than us?" Eli looked around at the crowd of aliens, then back at her. "Not only survive," he said with conviction, "but we can thrive. Strength alone doesn't win battles. Adaptability, courage, and the refusal to surrender do." Kayla's ears twitched, a small sign of her admiration. She had fought countless species, yet none had responded to defeat with such calm, such insight. She began to see a truth she had ignored for too long. Underestimating humans was a mistake. As Eli left the arena, brushing off dust from his jacket one last time, Kayla called after him. "You are unusual, human. I want to see how far your spirit can take you." Eli paused, smiling over his shoulder. "You will see. Humans never stop rising." The alien crowd whispered among themselves, some in disbelief, others in curiosity. Kayla remained in the center, thinking deeply. Something about that human had shaken her understanding of strength. Not power, not speed, not agility, but resilience and spirit. And somewhere deep inside, Kayla felt the stirrings of a challenge she had not expected, to see if her alien strength could match the unbreakable will of a human. For Eli, the day had been another test, another chance to prove that humans, though few and often underestimated, were forces not defined by size or power, but by their ability to rise, adapt, and smile in the face of impossible odds. The arena's lights dimmed completely as he walked away, leaving a crowd buzzing with whispers. And Kayla, standing alone at the center, silently wondered, how far can a human truly go? The next morning, Neoterra's streets were alive with the energy of a new day. Hovering vehicles whizzed above, and aliens of countless shapes moved purposefully through the markets and plazas. Eli walked quietly among them, observing patterns, studying reactions, and mentally cataloging details. His mind was always active, analyzing, learning, preparing for challenges he did not yet know would come. Kayla, meanwhile, had not forgotten the human who smiled after being knocked down. She replayed the events of the arena in her mind. Most species would have begged for mercy or fled. Yet Eli's calm, his constant rising, his ability to learn from every strike, it puzzled her. She had trained with the finest warriors in the galaxy, yet none had shown such resilience. She realized that understanding humans required more than strength. It required patience and observation. Later that day, Kayla found Eli in a quiet training hall, a place rarely visited by anyone except elite fighters. She stood at the doorway, arms crossed, studying him. Eli looked up, nodding politely. "You came," he said, his voice calm and steady. "I need to understand humans," Kayla replied, stepping inside. "Your species does not behave like any I know. You fall, you rise, and you smile. Why?" Eli gestured for her to sit on a bench nearby. "Because humans see challenges differently. For us, a fall is not failure, it is feedback. Every mistake teaches us something. Every strike against us shows a new possibility. That is why I smile. I see opportunity. Kayla tilted her head. Opportunity? When you could be injured or worse. Exactly then, Eli said. The bigger the threat, the greater the chance to learn. Humans survive because we adapt faster than others. We see patterns, notice details, and use creativity where others use brute strength. We may be weaker in body, but our minds are sharp. Our spirit refuses to give up. Kayla crossed her arms again, a faint glow of admiration in her eyes. So your strength is not physical? Not always, Eli replied. Physical strength helps, but it is limited. Human strength comes from thinking, from observing, from trying again even when it seems impossible. It is persistence. It is hope. For a moment, Kayla was silent. She had never heard such words from a species so small, so easily underestimated. Her life had been built on raw power, speed, and strategy, but never patience, never endurance in the way humans endured. Show me, she said finally, her voice quieter now. Show me how your humans learn from every strike. Teach me to see what you see. Eli smiled. Watch carefully. It is not only about reaction. It is about understanding the situation, predicting outcomes, and choosing the right response. Kayla nodded. She moved in for a test faster than the eye could follow. Eli's body reacted instinctively. He dodged, fell, rolled, and rose again. Each time his movements were slightly different, adjusting to her speed and attack pattern. He was not stronger than her, yet he used timing, angles, and anticipation to survive. Your form changes slightly with each move, Kayla noticed. How do you decide? Observation and experience, Eli said calmly. I notice how you shift your weight, how your eyes track me, the rhythm of your strikes. Then I use that information. Every mistake you make teaches me. Every success I endure teaches me. By the end, I know your pattern better than you think you know it yourself. Kayla stopped mid-motion, her hands hovering in the air. She had never trained anyone who could improve in seconds under pressure. Her warriors usually needed days, sometimes weeks, to adapt to a new strategy. Eli learned in moments. You are fast to learn, she admitted, a faint smile forming. Faster than I imagined. Even my best trainees would struggle to match you. Eli nodded. That is what humans do. We survive not because we are the strongest or the fastest, but because we adapt. Adaptability is our greatest weapon. The two spent the next hours in the hall. Kayla tested him with strikes, spins, and feints, and each time Eli responded differently, slowly growing more confident with each engagement. He did not win by overpowering her. He won by understanding, predicting, and adjusting. Kayla felt a strange respect building inside her. Humans were fragile yet unyielding, small yet clever beyond imagination, and above all, they refused to surrender, no matter the odds. Finally, Kayla stepped back, breathing slightly heavier than usual. I did not think humans could learn so quickly. Not so efficiently. Eli straightened, brushing off a spot of dust from his jacket. We are underestimated too often. Aliens look at our bodies and assume weakness. They rarely look at our minds. But the mind adapts, the mind plans, the mind survives where strength alone fails. Kayla's violet eyes softened. She had fought beings with multiple arms, claws, and energy shields. They were strong, precise, and deadly, yet none had matched a human's resilience. She began to see why humans had survived and thrived against impossible odds on countless planets. You smile even when you are on the ground, she said quietly. Do you never fear failure? Fear is natural, Eli admitted. But humans learn to use fear. Fear sharpens our senses, focuses our mind, and reminds us to pay attention, but we do not let it stop us. That is why I smile. Every challenge is a chance to improve, and every threat is a chance to grow stronger. Kayla stared at him. She had faced warriors who fought for honor, warriors who fought for glory, warriors who fought for survival, but never one who smiled through fear and defeat. She began to understand that this was not arrogance. It was a strength that came from within, a courage rooted in experience and spirit. Show me again, she said after a pause, her voice determined. Let me see how far a human can go. Teach me your way of thinking, Eli agreed. They sparred again, but this time he took small risks, testing new strategies and baiting Kayla into overextending. Each time he learned, adapted, and corrected. Kayla's strikes grew sharper, faster, and more precise, but Eli always found a way to respond, never giving up, never yielding. Hours passed. Sweat ran down their faces, muscles ached. but the thrill of learning and testing limits made them both feel alive. Kayla realized that humans, despite being smaller and weaker, had a unique advantage: their ability to improve in real time. No alien could match that instinctive calculation, that mental flexibility combined with courage. When the sparring ended, Kayla finally lowered her arms completely, breathing heavily, but smiling faintly. "You are remarkable, human," she admitted. "Your strength is not in your body. It is in your mind, your spirit, your will. I underestimated your species." Eli nodded, still calm and smiling. "Most do. Humans are rare in Neoterra, and even rarer are those who understand us. But our strength is simple. Never stop trying, never stop learning, and never let fear rule us." Kayla's tail flicked slowly behind her. "Then humans are dangerous," she said thoughtfully. "Not because of power, but because you cannot be easily broken. You rise again and again, smarter each time. That is frightening," Eli chuckled softly. "It is meant to be. When others give up, humans keep going. That is what sets us apart." Kayla paused, looking at him with a mixture of curiosity and respect. "Perhaps I should train more humans," she mused. "If all of them possessed your resilience, the galaxy would have to take notice." Eli smiled, feeling the truth of her words. "It is not just about one human. It is about what we represent: spirit, ingenuity, and the refusal to surrender. That is the real power of our species." For the first time, Kayla understood the human smile, not as arrogance, not as defiance, but as a reflection of enduring hope and courage. She had fought countless beings who relied on strength, speed, or weaponry, but Eli had shown her something deeper. The essence of humanity was in its resilience, adaptability, and spirit. As they left the training hall, the neon city outside sparkled with life. Kayla walked beside Eli, silent but thoughtful. She had met countless warriors, faced the fiercest opponents, yet never had she encountered a being who refused to be defeated, yet learned from every strike. Eli glanced at her and smiled. "The galaxy has many challenges ahead," he said, "and humans. We will face them all, not with arrogance, but with courage, adaptability, and hope." Kayla looked at him, her violet eyes reflecting something she rarely admitted: admiration. "Then let us see how far this human spirit can go," she said. Eli smiled again. "You will see," he replied, already thinking ahead. Humans never stop rising, and in that moment, Kayla realized that she was witnessing the beginning of a story unlike any she had known. A story where humans, underestimated and rare, would prove that true strength comes from the mind, the heart, and the will to never give up. Neoterra had never been completely safe, but the city had a rhythm, a predictable pulse. That rhythm shattered one evening when alarms blared across the metropolis. Holographic billboards flickered with urgent warnings, and the sky above glowed red with emergency signals. The Void Syndicate, a rogue alien faction feared across multiple star systems, had been detected moving toward Neoterra. Their ships were massive, heavily armed, and their reputation for destruction was unmatched. Eli was already on the move. Calm as always, he observed the chaos with sharp eyes. Citizens fled in all directions, and alien authorities scrambled to organize defenses. Yet Eli noticed the signs others missed: weak points in the city's defense grids, gaps in patrol patterns, and unusual energy readings from the approaching fleet. His mind raced, calculating odds, predicting attacks, and creating contingency plans before even a single battle began. Kayla arrived moments later, landing on a platform with precision and speed. Her violet eyes reflected worry, something she rarely allowed herself to show. "Eli," she said, her voice tense. "The Syndicate is more powerful than anyone expected. Even our strongest warriors fear them. How can humans survive this?" Eli remained calm, scanning the sky. "By doing what humans have always done," he said quietly. "We adapt. We observe. We turn disadvantages into opportunities. Strength alone will not save Neoterra, but intelligence, courage, and teamwork can." Kayla frowned, doubtful. Humans were smaller, weaker, and less equipped than most alien species. Yet something about Eli's calm confidence made her pause. "You truly believe humans can stand against them?" she asked. "I don't just believe it," Eli said, tightening his jacket. "I know it. Humans have survived worse on worse worlds with worse odds. We find solutions when others see only problems." The first wave of the Void Syndicate arrived, sleek black ships cutting through the sky like shadows. Their weapons unleashed energy blasts that ripped through the city's outer defenses. Aliens scrambled to respond, but their attacks were slow and predictable compared to the speed of the incoming threat. Civilians ran, buildings shook, and the streets became a blur of chaos. Kyla activated her combat systems, her body moving with the precision of countless battles. She struck down incoming attackers with astonishing speed, each movement calculated and powerful, yet even she could not manage every strike alone. She realized that she would need allies, and her mind immediately turned to Eli. "Come with me," she called, moving to intercept a group of enemy drones. "We fight together, or Neo-Terra falls." Eli nodded, following her into the fray. He didn't rely on strength alone. Instead, he observed, calculated, and adapted. He used the environment, bouncing attacks off walls, ducking behind energy barriers, and luring enemies into traps. Each move was small, subtle, but effective. Kayla noticed that the human beside her was not just surviving, he was changing the battlefield itself. "Your strategies, they are clever," Kayla admitted, striking down a drone with precision. "I've never seen an alien use tactics like that in the heat of battle." Eli smiled briefly, ducking under a blast. "It's simple," he said. "Notice patterns, predict outcomes, and exploit weaknesses. Strength is temporary, but knowledge is permanent." Together, they created a rhythm that the Void Syndicate had not expected. Kayla's speed and power destroyed threats directly, while Eli's adaptability allowed them to anticipate attacks and redirect energy in ways the enemy never predicted. The humans in Neo-Terra, few as they were, began helping, inspired by Eli's calm confidence. Civilians used debris to block enemy pathways. Engineers rerouted power to defensive systems, and even small, overlooked groups of humans became essential in slowing the invaders. Kayla looked at him with growing respect. "I underestimated humans," she admitted aloud. "Not in combat skill, but in spirit. Your species can inspire, can adapt, and can survive where stronger warriors fail." Eli didn't respond immediately. His mind was focused on the next wave of attacks, yet his eyes reflected quiet determination. "That is why humans are dangerous," he said finally. "We do not rely solely on power. We rely on courage, intelligence, and persistence. And when we work together, we amplify those qualities." The battle continued for hours. The Void Syndicate unleashed wave after wave of advanced fighters, attempting to overwhelm Neo-Terra's defenses. Kayla moved with incredible speed, taking out drones and soldiers with precision, but she began to notice something unusual. The humans around her were not just running or hiding. They were learning. Every encounter with the enemy taught them something new. Every failed tactic was quickly adapted. Eli led a small group of human volunteers through a series of improvisational traps. Using simple barriers, reflected energy blasts, and clever positioning, they were able to neutralize drones twice their size. Kayla watched in awe. Where aliens relied on brute force, humans relied on ingenuity and teamwork. The same persistence she had witnessed in Eli in the arena now spread across the city. "You are incredible," Kayla said to him during a brief pause. Sweat dripped down her face, her breathing heavy but controlled. "Your species is more powerful than I imagined. Not in strength, but in mind and spirit." Eli shook his head. "It is not me alone. Humans thrive when they support each other, when we share knowledge and courage. One human can survive, but a group of humans, that is unstoppable." Kayla's eyes softened with admiration. She had always relied on her own skill, her own strength. Yet she now saw that humans had an ability she had never encountered: collective intelligence and shared determination. The battle reached its peak when the Void Syndicate unleashed their most advanced warship, a massive structure bristling with weapons and energy shields. Aliens froze in fear, civilians scattered, but Eli calmly observed the patterns in its defense systems. He pointed out weak points to Kayla and the other humans. "Focus on their energy relay," he instructed. "If we disable it, their shields will fail. Move quickly and coordinate." Kayla nodded, understanding the plan immediately. Together, humans and Kayla launched a coordinated attack. While she moved with blinding speed to engage key targets, Eli directed others to exploit the warship's weak points. Using clever timing, teamwork, and precise action, they were able to breach the warship's defenses. The ship's shields collapsed, and the humans pressed forward, disabling weapons and forcing the invaders to retreat. The city erupted in cheers. Aliens and humans alike had witnessed something extraordinary. A species long underestimated, relying not on sheer strength, but on adaptability, intelligence, and unyielding courage. had turned the tide of battle. Kayla stood beside Eli, her violet eyes reflecting both exhaustion and awe. "I doubted humans," she admitted quietly. "I thought your species was weak, fragile, easy to defeat. But you are remarkable. You survive not by overpowering but by outthinking, outlasting, and inspiring others. That is your true strength." Eli smiled, brushing dust from his jacket. "It is not just strength, Kayla. It is determination. It is learning. It is never giving up, no matter how impossible the odds. That is what humans do. That is why we survive." For the first time, Kayla realized the depth of his words. Humans were underestimated not because they lacked ability, but because their power was different, subtle, intelligent, and relentless. It was not the kind of power one could see with the eye alone. It was the power of spirit, mind, and courage combined. As the last of the Void Syndicate ships retreated into the darkness of space, Kayla looked at Eli with a newfound respect. "Humans," she said softly, almost to herself. "You may be few, but you are unstoppable." Eli's smile never faded. "We are few, yes, but we rise again and again. That is the true measure of a species. Strength is temporary, but the will to survive, that endures." Neoterra had been saved, not by raw power, but by the ingenuity, courage, and spirit of humans, guided by Eli's calm confidence. Aliens began to whisper about the remarkable humans who had turned the tide, and Kayla realized that she had witnessed something extraordinary. A small, underestimated species proving that even against overwhelming odds, resilience and intelligence could triumph. As the city settled into cautious calm, Eli and Kayla stood side by side. She had fought countless enemies, faced countless challenges, and yet she had learned more from a single human than she had from many powerful alien warriors. "Tell me again," she said, her voice quiet and reflective. "Why were you smiling all this time?" Eli looked at the horizon, where the sky still glowed from the battle's energy. "Because humans never see the end in failure. Every challenge, every battle, is a chance to learn, to grow, and to rise again. That is why we smile." Kayla nodded slowly, understanding at last. The human smile was not foolishness. It was courage, confidence, and hope. And she knew deep in her heart that she had only just begun to understand the extraordinary spirit of humanity. The battle against the Void Syndicate had shaken Neoterra, but the city was not yet safe. The Syndicate had retreated, yes, but their plans were far from over. Aliens whispered in fear, their defenses strained, and panic simmered just below the surface. Eli stood on a rooftop overlooking the city, observing the patterns of surveillance drones and enemy movements. Beside him, Kayla watched silently, her violet eyes sharp and calculating. "You remain calm," she said after a long pause. "Even now, when danger still looms." Eli nodded. "Panic doesn't solve problems. Observation does. Strategy does. Fear is only useful if it helps you act wisely. Humans survive because we act despite fear, not because we avoid it." Kayla considered this carefully. Her species relied on raw power and instinct. Many aliens did, humans. They relied on something different: thought, adaptation, and courage. It was subtle yet effective, and she now understood why Eli had survived every test in the arena, and every wave of the Syndicate's attacks. The Syndicate's ships returned hours later, this time in greater numbers. The city's defenders were exhausted, but Eli's calm presence inspired them. Humans moved with precision, following instructions, using improvised tools, and forming strategies that even aliens hadn't anticipated. Every human acted not just for survival, but as part of a collective plan, each action building on the next. Kayla moved with her usual speed and precision, striking down enemy drones as Eli directed humans into advantageous positions. Together they created a rhythm. Kayla with her strength and skill, Eli with his intellect and foresight. Every move they made was calculated to exploit the enemy's weakness. Human ingenuity is remarkable, Kayla admitted aloud during a brief pause. Even with so little physical strength compared to most aliens, you manipulate the battlefield with intelligence. Eli smiled. Strength alone does not win battles. Strategy, adaptability, and persistence do. Observe, learn, act, and adjust. That is the human way. The first stage of the counterattack involved luring the Syndicate into narrow city corridors where their numbers were less effective. Eli had instructed small teams of humans to position themselves strategically, creating traps and bottlenecks. Kayla and a few elite alien warriors led direct attacks to draw the enemy's attention. The combination worked brilliantly. Enemy forces, expecting a straightforward fight, found themselves outmaneuvered and frustrated. Kayla couldn't help but notice something extraordinary. Humans were learning in real time. Every drone that attacked, every enemy tactic was analyzed and used to predict the next move. Even inexperienced humans contributed, guided by Eli's calm and clear directions. She realized that humans could do more than survive. They could adapt to any situation and turn the tide. The Syndicate grew frustrated. Their advanced weaponry and overwhelming numbers seemed ineffective against such coordinated improvisation. Ships were disabled, drones destroyed, and enemy fighters forced to retreat repeatedly. Neoterra's streets, once chaotic, became a battlefield of clever strategy, where human ingenuity leveled the playing field. Kayla, now fully engaged in the fight, moved alongside Eli as he directed a small squad of humans. They approached a critical energy hub, the main source powering the Syndicate's local shields. Taking it out would leave the enemy vulnerable. Listen carefully, Eli instructed. We cannot overpower them directly. We must use timing, misdirection, and coordination. Kayla, I need you to distract their forces while the team moves in. Kayla nodded. Understood, humans. I trust your plan. Eli's mind raced with possibilities, analyzing every angle and predicting outcomes. He positioned the team, gave them simple but precise instructions, and then moved into action himself. Kayla's speed drew enemy attention, and the humans advanced with quiet confidence, using cover, environmental advantages, and synchronized timing. The energy hub was heavily guarded, but Eli had noticed a pattern. The Syndicate's soldiers relied on rigid routines. Using misdirection, humans created openings, exploiting the enemy's predictability. Drones were lured into traps, energy shields disrupted, and the hub was quickly disabled. Without its power, the Syndicate's local defenses faltered, leaving their forces exposed. Kayla observed the humans in action and could not hide her astonishment. They are fearless, precise, and clever, she muttered. Even when outnumbered, they manipulate the battlefield perfectly. This is extraordinary. Eli smiled slightly, never taking his eyes off the tactical map he visualized in his mind. Humans are underestimated for a reason. We may not be the strongest, but we are adaptive, persistent, and cooperative. That is our advantage. As the battle raged, humans began to lead key operations, coordinating attacks with the alien forces who had been skeptical of their abilities. Kayla, once doubtful, now fully relied on Eli's strategies. Together, they orchestrated moves that forced the Syndicate to retreat again and again. Each withdrawal showed the Syndicate that brute force alone could not win. Kayla finally understood the depth of human resilience. These beings were not powerful in the traditional sense, yet they outsmarted, outlasted, and outmaneuvered forces far stronger than themselves. She realized that humans' true strength was their ability to combine courage, intellect, and adaptability to create solutions where none seemed possible. The climax of the battle came when the Syndicate launched a massive assault aimed directly at the city's central command hub. Kayla and Eli coordinated a last-ditch defense, combining Kayla's overwhelming speed with Eli's intricate plans. Humans moved in carefully timed sequences, guiding aliens to cover, disabling incoming drones, and setting traps for the main enemy force. The Syndicate's assault faltered. Every move they made was countered, not by brute force but by strategy and cooperation. Kayla struck down enemy leaders with precision, while Eli directed humans to block critical paths and neutralize weapons. The Syndicate's forces began to retreat, demoralized and disoriented by the intelligence and persistence of a species they had underestimated. Finally, the last enemy ships disengaged, retreating into the dark reaches of space. Neoterra's defenders, humans and aliens alike, cheered, exhausted but triumphant. Kayla stood beside Eli, breathing heavily but smiling faintly. You were right, she said softly. Strength alone does not win. Humans, you are far stronger than I imagined, not in muscle but in mind, courage, and persistence. You outmaneuvered them at every turn. Eli nodded calmly, his expression steady. Strength is temporary. Knowledge, courage, and adaptability endure. That is what humans rely on, and when we work together, our impact is multiplied. Kayla looked around at the city, now quiet again, and then back at Eli. I doubted humans. I underestimated your species. But now, I see the truth. You survive not because you are strong, but because you never give up. Never stop learning and never stop rising. Eli smiled. Exactly. That is why humans are never truly defeated. Every challenge is an opportunity to grow. Every obstacle is a chance to adapt, and when we face impossible odds, we rise together. Kayla's tail flicked slowly behind her, a rare gesture of contemplation. She had fought countless enemies, faced countless dangers, but none had taught her as much as a single human's calm confidence and clever thinking. For the first time, she saw humans not as fragile or weak, but as worthy allies and formidable opponents. The city began to recover. Humans and aliens worked side by side to repair damage and tend to the injured. But the memory of the battle remained vivid in the minds of all who witnessed it. Aliens who had doubted humans now whispered about their resilience and ingenuity. Kayla, standing beside Eli, understood that this small, underestimated species had earned a new respect across Neoterra. "You smile again," Kayla said quietly, looking at him with a mixture of curiosity and admiration. "Even now, after all this chaos, why?" Eli glanced at the horizon, where the sun's rays reflected off the city's glass towers. "Because every challenge is a lesson," he said simply. "Every battle is a chance to improve. Humans never see defeat as the end. We rise, we learn, and we grow stronger. That is why we smile." Kayla nodded slowly, finally understanding. The human smile was not arrogance, not foolishness, but courage, confidence, and hope. And she realized that she had only begun to understand the remarkable spirit of humanity. A spirit that would continue to rise, adapt, and inspire no matter the odds. For Eli, the day had proven once again that humans, though small in number and often underestimated, could face overwhelming threats and emerge victorious through intelligence, courage, and resilience. For Kayla, it had been a lesson in humility and awe. Sometimes the greatest power is not in strength or speed, but in the unbreakable will to rise, adapt, and survive. As the sun set over Neoterra, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Kayla turned to Eli. "I will never doubt humans again," she said quietly. "Your species is extraordinary." Eli smiled once more, his calm confidence unshaken. "We are few," he said, "but we rise. That is all any species needs to endure." And in that moment, Kayla knew the truth. Humans were not just survivors. They were forces of nature and spirit, intellect and determination, capable of shaping the course of entire civilizations. Neoterra woke to a quiet city for the first time in weeks. The air smelled of ozone and repaired metal. Streets once scarred by battle were now filled with citizens returning to daily life. Holographic billboards displayed recovery efforts, while drones delivered supplies to the injured. Yet beneath the calm, the city still hummed with tension. The threat of the Void Syndicate was gone, but the memory of their power lingered like a shadow. Eli stood atop one of the city's observation towers, surveying the skyline. His expression remained calm, almost serene, but his mind worked steadily, calculating potential threats, reviewing strategies, and ensuring the city's defenses were secure. Kayla joined him, moving with her usual grace and precision. Her violet eyes reflected admiration and something new: trust. "You have changed the way aliens see humans," she said quietly, her voice almost reverent. "After all that happened, humans are no longer underestimated." Eli smiled faintly, looking down at the bustling streets. "We were never weak," he said. "We just have a different strength. Not everyone sees it immediately, but when we rise, adapt, and work together, we become unstoppable." Kayla nodded, remembering the battle. Every challenge, every move Eli had orchestrated. The Syndicate had believed strength alone could conquer Neoterra. They had been wrong. Humans, though smaller and less powerful physically, had turned the tide through courage, ingenuity, and determination. The city's council, composed of alien leaders, had requested a meeting with Eli and Kayla. They wanted to understand how a small human presence had outsmarted one of the most feared factions in the galaxy. Kayla guided Eli through the council chambers, where the air was thick with tension and awe. Leaders from multiple species looked at him with respect, curiosity, and disbelief. "Eli," one elder said, an alien with translucent skin and golden eyes, "your species has done what we thought impossible. How did you manage it?" Eli remained calm, his posture steady. "It was not about power alone," he said. "Humans rely on adaptability, observation, and courage. We do not give up, even when odds are impossible. Every challenge is a lesson. Every failure an opportunity to learn. We use teamwork, strategy, and persistence to turn the tide. That is how humans survive and thrive. The council members whispered among themselves, clearly impressed. Kayla stood beside Eli, her expression proud. I can attest to his words, she said. Humans are underestimated at their own risk. Eli's leadership and calm strategy inspired not just other humans, but all of Neoterra's defenders. One council member stepped forward, a warrior known for her rigid discipline and strength. It seems humans have a quality we cannot measure by strength or speed alone. It is spirit, tenacity, the refusal to yield, Eli nodded. Exactly. Strength is temporary. Intelligence, adaptability, and spirit endure. That is the true power of humans. Kayla looked at Eli with a faint smile. You were smiling all this time, weren't you? Even in the arena, even in battle. Eli's lips curved into a calm grin. Because humans never see defeat as the end. We see it as a chance to learn, to grow, to rise again. That is why we smile. The council fell silent, absorbing his words. Humans had been underestimated for centuries, considered fragile, weak, and unremarkable. Yet Eli, through his actions, had proven that true strength lies not in muscle or weapons, but in courage, ingenuity, and persistence. Later, Eli and Kayla walked through the city streets. Rebuilt buildings gleamed under the sun and citizens moved with renewed hope. Humans and aliens worked side by side to restore what had been damaged, sharing resources, knowledge, and determination. The battle had united them in ways that had seemed impossible before. You know, Kayla said quietly, I thought strength was everything. Speed, power, precision. But humans, you showed me a different kind of power, one that comes from the mind and spirit. It is extraordinary, Eli nodded. That is the power humans rely on. We are not always the strongest, but we endure, we adapt. And when we face impossible odds, we rise together. That is how we survive and thrive. Kayla studied him, thoughtful. You inspired not just humans, but the entire city. Even I have learned from you. Perhaps humans are the teachers, not the students. Eli chuckled softly. We teach by example, not by words. Courage, adaptability, and persistence are universal. Any species can learn them. That is why humans have survived, even in the most dangerous worlds. As they walked, Kayla noticed children playing nearby, humans and aliens together, their laughter echoing across the rebuilt streets. The future seemed brighter than it had in decades. The Void Syndicate had been defeated, but the story of Neoterra's defense had inspired a new respect for humans across the galaxy. You have changed the perception of your species, Kayla said, smiling faintly, not just in Neoterra but across systems. They will remember what humans can do. Eli looked at the children playing, at the humans helping aliens rebuild, and felt a quiet satisfaction. Humans are small in number, yes, but we rise, we adapt, we persevere. That is enough to inspire hope, change minds, and protect the worlds we care about. Later that evening, Kayla and Eli stood atop the highest tower in the city, watching the sun dip below the horizon. The sky glowed with orange and purple hues, casting long shadows over Neoterra. The city was quiet but alive with the promise of a new beginning. You never stop smiling, Kayla said softly, her voice almost a whisper. Eli looked at her calmly. Because humans never give up. Every challenge, every obstacle, every threat is a chance to grow stronger. That is why we smile. Kayla nodded, understanding finally. She had fought, trained, and survived countless battles, but she had never met a species like humans. Small, fragile, underestimated, yet capable of incredible courage, ingenuity, and resilience. She realized that this smile was not foolishness or arrogance. It was hope, determination, and an unbreakable spirit. The city below glimmered with lights as night fell. Aliens and humans alike were beginning to rebuild, inspired by the bravery and cleverness of those who had stood against impossible odds. Kayla placed a hand on Eli's shoulder, a rare gesture of trust and respect. Humans are extraordinary, she said quietly, not because of strength, but because of spirit, courage, and persistence. You and your species have changed Neoterra forever. Eli smiled faintly, looking out at the city they had saved together. We may be few, he said, but we rise. That is enough to face anything. That is the true power of humanity. Kayla's violet eyes reflected admiration and awe. I will never doubt humans again. You are remarkable, Eli. And your species, is capable of greatness beyond measure. Eli looked at the horizon, calm and confident. Every challenge is a lesson. Every obstacle is a chance to grow. Humans never stop rising, and as long as we do, we can face anything. Neoterra's skies were calm now, but its citizens had learned an important truth. Humans may be small in number, but their courage, ingenuity, and persistence make them a force to be respected across the galaxy, and among them, Eli's calm confidence and perpetual smile became a symbol of hope, reminding all that true strength is not just in power, but in the unbreakable spirit that refuses to give up. Kayla looked at him one last time before turning to help coordinate recovery efforts. One day humans may teach the galaxy how to survive, not with power but with spirit. Eli smiled, the city lights reflecting in his eyes. That is the human way. We rise, we adapt, and we never give up. As Neoterra settled into peace, the story of Eli and the humans spread far and wide. A species once underestimated had proven its worth, not through brute force but through courage, intellect, and resilience. And for Kayla, it was a lesson she would never forget. Sometimes the smallest, most underestimated beings can rise to greatness, inspiring hope across worlds. The sun set completely, painting the sky with deep purples and soft stars. Neoterra had survived, humans had risen, and the galaxy would never see them the same way again.